Hello, my name is Jasmine Williams, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Associate Director for Career Development at Career and Professional Development at UNC Greensboro. And welcome to UNCG. Listen, we're going to dive into how to make a college resume the UNCG way. I know we have a lot of students joining us this summer and over the course of the year. And so this video will serve one as a welcome to you all, but then also a great introduction to how to develop your resume now that you are a UNCG student. So before we dive into that, I do want to share a little bit about our office. We go by CPD. And so we are the Office of Career and Professional Development. And there are about four groups in our office that make up our department. The first piece is career development. This is actually the team I get the pleasure of managing and leading. And so we are the most student-facing group in our office. And we see students who want to talk about their career development, their career journey. We offer career coaching appointments about resumes, career exploration. If you have an interview coming up you want to prepare for, if you have an offer that you want to negotiate, we do all things there. And we also do class presentations and work with our student orgs to present in their meetings as well. And so when you come see us, when you come see a coach, more than likely it'll be someone from the career development team. The other team that we have is employee relations. And so this team is our outward facing group. And so they are the group that are going out to recruit companies to recruit our Spartans. And so it's very important to engage with us, to tell us the different types of employers and things you want to do, because then we can go out and then get those people to come to campus. This team also hosts our largest career fairs on campus. That's a part-time job fair, and then our job and internship fair that is hosted in the fall and spring. And another group we have is student employment. So if you are planning to work on campus, if you are planning to have a job while you're working or while you're a student, you will come engage with this group to process your I-9 and get situated so you can do the great work on UNCG's campus. And then the last group is our career outcome data team. And so this is a very important function of our office as well, because they are capturing data. They are wanting to know where our Spartans are going. So in return, it helps Spartans as they're here to navigate the market and things as well. And so that is what makes up our Office of Career and Professional Development. And I always like to say that Chick-fil-A is next to us. If you know where Chick-fil-A is on campus, we are not hard to find. We are right there beside them. So if you are planning to go get some Chick-fil-A nuggets or a spicy chicken sandwich, stop by and say hello to us as well. And the last piece I'll share before we dive into the content today is we do have career resources available to students as they're here at UNCG. And so the first one is Handshake. If you are a new student, you will want to be on the lookout for an email that says welcome to Handshake. It'll dive into how to activate your account, how to get started with that. And on Handshake, that is where you can search for jobs both on campus and off, internships, full-time employment. It's also how you can see what events we're hosting, different fairs that we have going on. And so this is the platform you definitely want to get plugged in with early. The other two is VMock and Big Interview. And so VMock is our smart resume platform. And it is a way that you can get feedback on your resume at any time. It walks you through how to develop your resume and gives tailored feedback on how to strengthen it as well. And so we encourage students to do this because you do need a VMock approved resume to put it on Handshake to apply to jobs. And our team is happy to help you with that if you run into any issues. And then the other one is Big Interview. And so this is actually one of my favorites. It is a virtual interview platform where you can go in, practice interviews, and get feedback in real time as well. And so we like to say this is your career toolkit. And these are the big ones that we have. There are a few others, but these are the big three that I think you'll want to engage with and tap into. All right. So when we talk about career development and career readiness on our campus, we like to bring up these competencies. And so if you are developing and working in these competencies, typically, if you can say I have critical thinking, I know what leadership is, I know how to have professionalism, um, then you are career ready, right? And so our goal while you're here is to help you develop these skills so that when you are applying to internships and you're applying to jobs post graduation or grad school, that you have the things that are needed to really stand out in today's market. And so you'll hear me talking about a few of these different things as we are talking about resumes, because you'll want to see these competencies or skills come across in your resume. And so this is an important call out because, especially if you're a new student on campus and you're like, do I have these skills? How can I develop these skills? The answer is you have them and you can continue to develop them, right? Whether it's in your classroom, right? Learning how to work in teams, learning how to communicate, learning how to be a leader, or if it is you working a part-time job, right? Understanding how to critically think when problems arise, knowing how to use technology, right? And so you are always building these skills. And so where we come in is helping you identify them and articulate them in a way that is helpful for any of your next steps, right? So that could be a job on campus, that could be an internship, grad school, a job after graduation. And so just want to highlight these because it's important to know as you develop and matriculate here at UNCG. All right, so as we dive into this resume kind of video webinar, these are some learning outcomes that we can expect that you will get by watching this. And so the first one is you're going to be able to identify virtual resume resources on campus. You'll be able to identify and name the 8 competencies, which we just went over. You'll be able to identify common resume mistakes and how to avoid them. You'll understand how to form bullets, very strong bullets when crafting your resume. And you'll be able to successfully implement some of the resume strategies that we talk about today as well. All right, so let's dive in. So what is a resume and why do we need them? I'm sure many of you have had a resume, but I don't know if you ever paused to think about like, what is this document and why is it important, right? This whole resume thing will never go away, right? You'll always need one. It's an ever-growing thing. And it's an important skill to develop now and really understanding what it is, how to craft one, how to articulate yourself using a document. And so essentially a resume is a snapshot, right? It's a first impression of who you are. Sometimes when we're applying to jobs and things, people don't get to know who you are first, right? That first impression typically is that resume. And so you want to be able to stand out and show who you are with your document, right? It's your first hello when you're applying to jobs and an extension of your brand, right? And so a good thing to always think about is, does my resume represent the brand that I want to show, right? If I don't get to talk to anyone, if they just see my document, is it a good picture of who I am and the brand that I have? And so why do we need them, right? To share our experiences, to share our accomplishments with hopes in getting a job, right? Or going to grad school, or whatever that next step is, right? That is why we need them. We need them to be able to show in a concise way, here's what we are, here's the experiences I have, and here's how these things translate to your workplace or your program or anything that you're applying to. And so another important thing is, how do we build a college resume, right? And so if you are a first-year student, you might have only had a resume in high school, or you might have used a resume to apply to UNCG or any other school, right? Or you might be a transfer student and maybe you've only had a resume at the institution you were before. And so what I want to pause here is really talk about what a college resume is and what is the UNCG way, right? And so there's so many different things online. There's so many different resources and videos and things on resumes. And so there's a lot of things. And we want to be able to share, here is what we deem as a college resume. Here's how we say UNCG students should be building their document. And so a college resume should focus on your future goals, right? I know a lot of times we're just building resumes to just talk about the things that we've done, but the best way to build it is to build it with your future in mind, right? How do the things that you're doing or the skills that you have, how do they relate to where you're going? And so you want to be future focused when you're building out that resume. And so it should be tailored towards jobs, internships, or campus roles that you're interested in. And then more importantly, is it going toward whatever your career path is, right? And so it's totally fine to have like a general resume that's related to your future goal or your career path, but then you also want to be able to take a step and tailor it to the specific jobs and things you're applying to as well. And that is where our office comes in to really be able to help you tailor your document, because that is the key to standing out when you're applying to different roles. Um, a college resume highlights your transferable skills. And so a lot of times we get in the habit of just sharing things that we've done, and it doesn't really showcase the different skills. And so you want to be very skill focused, right? You want to be able to emphasize some of those competencies that we just talked about, right? That leadership, that communication, the teamwork. Do your bullets showcase that you can critically think, right? And so you want to make sure that is coming across. And then it should pull from all of your experiences. I believe that all experience counts, right? And so if you've had a job before UNCG, if you've volunteered, if you've been a part of different organizations, all of that experience can count. It's all about highlighting the different skills you're using within these experiences. And then the last piece is the college resume uses a professional format, which we will talk very deeply about shortly. But it should be clean, simple, one page, and your bullets should start with action verbs. And so this is just a call out when we're talking about how do we develop a resume that is best for where you are right now at UNCG. So let's get into some common mistakes, right? A few of them is, or that we sometimes don't have the correct verb tense, right? And so making sure that any role that we've had that was in the past should be in past tense, and any role that we currently have should be in the present tense. Um, Sometimes we have missing information. It's very important to share the date ranges, to show how long you've been at a place, to show the accurate job title, location, all of that is important. Another common mistake is sometimes we have resumes that are more than one page. And this could vary based on what you're doing and where you're trying to go. But what I will say is if you are a first year student, your resume does not need to be beyond one page right now. Now, once we get to a point where maybe you are looking at grad schools, or you're applying to different industries that want more information, there can be some discussion around does more than one page make sense? But for the most part, you only need one page per degree. And so, especially for a first year student, you don't want to do more than one page, because you also don't want to run the risk of having a lot of important information on a second or third page, and then that person never gets to it. One little fact I'll share is the average recruiter or employer spends less than 10 seconds looking at a resume. And so, with that in mind, you want to be concise. You want to be able to show all the things on that one page, because sometimes they're not spending time to look multiple pages, right? We want to avoid a lot of blank space. Um, Another common mistake is sometimes inconsistent formatting throughout the sections. I'm not sure why that's written twice right there, but having multi-columns, experience is not listed in reverse chronological order. Another common mistake is the font size is not easily readable, or using paragraphs um, instead of bullet points. Again, we want to be concise. And then forgetting to list education. This is so important, right? Right now, your job is a student. And so you want to be able to show, like, here's what I am doing. I am being a student right now, right? So that should be first and foremost. And we'll talk about that. But we don't want to forget to leave our education off of our resume. And so here's some best practices, right? It's kind of the inverse of the common mistakes. But using bullets is a best practice. Not using color. I know we want to sometimes stand out, but you don't want to stand out for the wrong reasons. And so a general rule of thumb is to just have black and white standard resume. A single column design, one page, like I mentioned, having fonts that are easy to read. right? We don't want anything crazy that makes it difficult because, again, people aren't spending a lot of time on resumes. So we want to be able to quickly show them and make it easy for them to understand what you have on your resume. You want to make sure your experience is in reverse chronological order. Full degree names are spelled out, listing your city and state as it relates to the different experiences that you have. And then a general rule of thumb for font sizes is between 10 and 12. And then we always encourage 0.5 margins. One is fine too, but if you're someone who is like running into spacing issues and now you have more than one page, just kind of play around with the different font sizes and margins to help too, because a lot of times fixing that will give you the just amount of space that you need. All right, so here is an example of a first year resume. Formatted very well, one page. It has the education, work experience, relevant projects. And so when you really take a step back to think about all the things you're doing, I'm sure you can build out a really strong resume. And so what we're going to do here is kind of go section by section, just so you can know exactly what needs to go where. And so the first part is the education. And so, like I mentioned before, having your school, your degree, that graduation date. A lot of times students want to put intended graduation or expected, but I don't really think that word is needed. I think when they see that the year is further than where the year we're in, they know that, okay, you're intended to have it by this point. And so May 2029, or May 2028, whatever the year is, December 2029, all of that is fine here. And then for some students, if you're a first year student, it is okay for now to have your high school on here. What I will say is you typically will remove this after your first year. Um, and so if you need it for spacing, if you have a lot of white space, it's fine to have it now. But it's going to be kind of assumed that if you're in school that you have a high school diploma. And so it's just not the best use of space if you're running into space issues. And so a couple important notes here is you don't need your physical address. With the way the world is now with data and information, it's just best to not have your full address floating out there. It's typically not needed. I don't even have it here, but city and state is perfectly fine. If you're applying to a role and it gets to a point where you need to provide your address, that is where I would do it. I wouldn't put it on your resume though. If you have a LinkedIn profile and it's clean and ready to go, you can put that in this section. And then another consideration as you matriculate through your time here, when you receive any honors, awards, dean's list, if you study abroad, that can also go in this education section as well. Okay, and so before we move into the next part, it's important to call out how bullets should be phrased and what they should look like. And so a lot of times if you have not built a resume before, or you have, but you never really taught, sometimes our bullets will look like what's on the left, right? They'll be very task-based, which is a great start, right? Because it's important to know what you were doing. But what we want you to get to a point to is to be able to have some skill-based bullets. And so we just have a couple of examples of what it looks like to move from a task-based to skill. And so an example would be, I was responsible for several fundraising campaigns. Okay, cool. It told me what you did, but it's not really showcasing the skills, what came out of it. And so a better way to articulate this would be organize and manage 3 annual fundraisers totaling 5,000 in donations for charity. So this is great. This tells me, all right, they have organization skills. They know how to manage something. So they have some leadership skills and they know how to produce results, right? And so just that one bullet was able to tell me that. And so as you're building out your bullets, you want to be thinking about what skills can I showcase? What outcomes came out of this? How did I impact the people around me or the organization? And how can I quantify things, right? And so always starting with a strong bullet, and then adding a little more meat, so they can see the different skills and impact that you had. So we do have a couple of strategies or formulas on how to do this, right? And so the first one is, of course, starting with the action verb, what you did, and then ending with how, why, or what the result was. I tell students always try to aim for the result first. If you can't think of the result, tell me why you did it. If you can't tell me why you did it, at least tell me how you did it, right? And the other one is SOAR. And so statement, occurrence, amount, result. And so as you're building out your bullets, check in and see, do I have a statement in here? Do I have an occurrence? Do I have an amount? Do I have a result? And so either of these can work for building out your bullets, but it's a great formula to use as you're thinking about building out some of these bullets here. So, which is a great segue for the work experience. And so when we're thinking about anything beyond this point, we want to incorporate some of these skill-based bullet strategies, right? We even have some of the competencies listed here for you to think about. Have I been using these competencies in the work that I've been doing, and how can I articulate that in my bullets? So when we get to work experience, here's a great example. You want to have that section in itself, listing what the company organization was, your work title, dates, and then using those strong bullets, right? Led daily activities for groups of 10 to 15 children ages 7 to 12, quantifying immediately at the beginning of this. And then here's the result for how and why. Ensuring safety and engagement across art, sports, and team building games, right? And so these are some really good examples of how to develop strong statements for your different experiences. Couple important notes here. Everything should be reverse chronological order. Your most recent experience should be first, using the correct tense. I would say no more than 4 bullets per job. I really think 3 is a sweet spot. No pronouns, right? And so no, I did this, we did this, they did this, no pronouns. You don't need end and punctuation on resumes. I know that's a tough one. Some people can, if you're going to do it, be consistent throughout. But the thing about a resume is we aren't creating sentences, we're creating statements. And so some of the grammar things there can be a little loose. And so same with like articles. Sometimes you don't need as many articles in your statements. And then we want to always try to start with very strong words. We want to avoid things like assisted or helped. And then you don't want to go over 2 lines per bullet because we're not creating paragraphs either. And then for our leadership section, and if I go back to this, right, we're like down here in the overall section for overall resume. So with leadership and involvement, same rules apply with the work experience, right? Only difference is now you want to be thinking about what other things have I done? Do I have any leadership involvement? Do I have any campus involvement? That's why this says alternative title here, because it can be a lot of different things. In our resume guide, we actually have a long list of different things you could use for a section header. But this example here is community involvement, right? Volunteering at the Spartan Open Pantry. Same rules apply with the bullets. Verb, strong statement, quantifying. And again, this section can be revised to fit the content. Companies like to see your interest and involvement, and it's a great conversation starter too, to kind of see, okay, oh, maybe you'll talk to an alum and you can speak to this, and they say, oh, I also volunteered at the Spartan Open Pantry. Okay, so the last piece for this broken down part is an additional section, right? And so this could be skills, experience, interest, alternative title, and you want to make sure it makes sense for whatever your content is. And so if you have some technical skills you want to highlight, that can be there. There's a little error there. If you have any language skills, if you can speak other languages, you can list them there. And then I love an interest line. I prefer these to be at the bottom of your resume. It's just a really great way to show your personality, show some of your interests. And it can also be a great conversation starter. It doesn't take away from the format of your resume. It's still professional. And I think as long as it's appropriate and it can showcase a little bit about you, I say get creative about what you can, or creative around what you can add in your interest line. Okay, so when building our resumes, sometimes you might run into some roadblocks. You're like, I need help. It might be 11 o'clock at night. We're closed, but we do have VMock. And so VMock is our smart resume career platform that can give you feedback. And so you can either create your resume in the platform, or if you already have one created, you can upload it and get a score as well. And so we encourage students to use this, and it's actually needed to upload your resume into Handshake. And so a lot of times we get questions from students on how is the score composed, right? What is making up this score that I get? So it's 3 different buckets. The first is impact. And so that is, do you have strong verbs? Is your bullets very strong, right? Kind of like those statements we were just talking about, are they skill-based? And so they look at the resume from that perspective and score just on impact. And then it looks at presentation, and that is scored out of 30 points. And so that is, what does your resume look like? Is it formatted properly? Is it consistent? Presentation means a lot, which is why I spent some time talking about that in the slides previously. And then competencies. Are skills coming across in your resume, right? Kind of like what we talked about, communication, leadership. Do those things come across? And so VMock looks at all 3 of these parts, and you get a score based off of that. And so at UNCG, we tell students to aim for a 65, but you don't have to stop there. A 65 is just needed to upload your resume into Handshake. And so don't think of these scores like academic things. I know we want to aim for an A. I encourage you to try to get in the green zone, but it's perfectly fine if you don't get in 100. And so if you run into any issues, let us know. Each student does get 10 uploads per year, academic year, for VMock. And so if you are trying to get your 65 and after 3 uploads, you're still not getting it, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to set up an appointment and walk you through how to maximize your resume, how to get it stronger to get that 65. Okay, so I've shared a lot about resumes. This is a quick video just to get you started with developing your college resume at UNCG. And so some next steps for you is to go ahead and use VMock to either create or revise your resume. Upload it to Handshake, especially if you are someone who is looking to apply to on-campus jobs, internships, anything like that. You'll want to get your resume up to speed and upload it so you can go ahead and apply. And then the final piece is follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram is UNCG Career. That way you can stay up to date with all things career, all things happening with CPD. And so I hope this video was a great first step for your resume. We look forward to seeing your very, very strong resumes. And again, welcome to UNCG.